I heard some of you now are starting to use the highly blessed and highly favored. I like that. Because you are, by the way. You are blessed and highly favored. Now, I know that every single day doesn't seem like a blessed day. Some days kind of feels like everything but kind of day. And so it's sort of somebody says, well, how are you? And you go, well, I'm blessed and highly favored, I guess. You know, that's what he keeps telling me to say, so. But you are blessed and highly favored. If you're a child of the King, then you are blessed. You are forgiven. Your past is under the blood. That's not mine. That was Wednesday, and I'm telling you, you missed it. You missed it. And if it's on our website, it will be up by the end of the day. Didn't mean to put Scott on blast there. I was just saying. But you need to watch it. It's good. Sister Pennington did an awesome job. She said a line that really stuck with me, and it was, the teacher is always quiet during the test. Is that me? That was pretty good. That really just hit home for me, because I know sometimes when we're going through the trials, we're trying to figure out where God is. Well, God never left. He's just being quiet during your test. But he made a promise that he'd never leave you or forsake you. Well, my message isn't her message, so I'm going to try to get away from it, but it was just good. I would invite you to watch for your ram this morning. Okay? Our call to savor the Lord close in our hearts is taken from the praise given to God by his servant Abraham after God provided a sacrifice in place of Abraham's only son, Isaac. His words are found in Genesis 22 and 14, where it reads, "So Abraham called this place, the Lord will provide, and to this day it is said, on the mountain of the Lord it will be provided. And he said, lay not thine hands upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeking thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me." Now, I have a tendency of putting myself in the shoes of the person that I'm reading about in that situation. How many parents do we have in this place right now? Think about that moment. It's not just it all of a sudden it's not just a little story in the Bible anymore. Think about that. Your only son or daughter, or one of them, whether you got 1 or 12, one of them is told to you to take them and sacrifice them. I guarantee you in this room, every one of us would say, nope, not happening. Because it is in our condition and our fiber and every beat of our heart that we will stand in the way of anything that comes against our children. Right. Anything. God, give it to me. God, take me instead. God, let me do it and let them be okay. Many of us have had our children go through things, and I promise you that prayer has been spoken. Just let it be me instead of them. My son has been through all kinds of stuff. All kinds of things. From the moment he was born. And I would take... Yes, you would. Every one of them. So then, you think, Abraham, his only son, God said, take him to the top of this mountain and sacrifice him to me. I mean, I'm so petty that if God spoke to me and said, pour gas all over your motorcycle and light it on fire, I'd be saying, oh, that wasn't God. Oh, that wasn't God. God didn't say that. You hear the thunder. Light it on fire. Man, that wind is just... Man, that's blowing through the trees funny. You know what I mean? You know, big hand come through, light it on fire. Be like, where are these children's parents? Look at this graffiti all over the wall. That surely can't be God. And that's just a motorcycle. My Jeep. That wasn't God either. I wasn't God. It didn't say that. Lord, I apologize. The scene in the Bible that precedes this statement by Abraham was the ultimate test of Abraham's faith. God had told him to go and sacrifice his only son, through whom he had to receive the promised blessings of being a great nation, and through whom all nations of the earth would be blessed, ultimately through Christ Jesus. And yet he had to take him to the top and sacrifice his only son. All these promises that had been given, surely this can't be the outcome that we were promised. Right. Surely this can't be it. You know that Abraham, without hesitation, obeyed the Lord. I mean, how in tune does Abraham have to be with his relationship with God that without even a hesitated moment, Brother Ralph, he said, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do. Oh my. Oh my. Think about that. Just put yourself in that mindset of what is your Isaac is what I'm asking you this morning. You hear what I'm asking? What is keeping you between you and your relationship with God? What is the thing that's standing in your way to that next place that God has intended for your life? What is your Isaac? The angel of the Lord called to him from heaven, and he said, do not lay your hands on that lad or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son or your only son, from me. See, all he's asking for you to do is stay fast in the test, because he's already got the provision ready for you. He's just asking you to steady the course and stop getting in the way. Steady the course and stop getting in the way, but we want instant results right now. We want the question answered before it's even been asked. So then when we have to sit on it for too long, now God doesn't hear me, God doesn't love me, God doesn't care, God isn't there, God isn't doing what he said he would do according to his word. And what you don't understand is that he is doing exactly what he said he was going to do according to his word. He never, ever said that we wouldn't go through things. As a matter of fact, he said that we would. It's up to how we react to them is what we're going to get on the other end. You don't get to live your life like hell and then expect the blessings on the other side of your lifestyle. I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. Is his grace enough? Of course his grace is enough. His grace never left me. Even in the worst place that I ever put myself through, I don't believe that his grace ever left me, or I wouldn't be standing here. But see, God loved me where I was. God loves you where you are. He just refuses to leave you there. Do you hear what I'm saying? He loves you where you're at. I don't care if you've walked away from him. I don't care if you're trying to still figure out where he is or who he is. I don't care about any of that. He loves you right where you are because he died on the cross for the sin of man. So right there tells you that he loved us despite ourselves. He loves you. He just refuses to leave you there. And don't think that once you get in that it just all goes relax. No. My goodness, you're just getting started. You're just getting started. But it's the decisions that we make that will put us where we are, whether they're good or whether they're bad. One thing we need to do is stop blaming the devil for every single thing that happens. And sometimes we need to just own it. That you made the stupid decision. You did it. You spent the money that wasn't there. Huh? Well, I'm broke, and God said, no. God said, don't be stupid. It's not in there that way, but I'm just bringing it into today's terms. See, if we decide to ignore that still small voice, then we have to own where we end up on the other side. We have to own it. I don't know what is going on. I didn't used to have this belly. So I don't know how to work around it right yet. I'm getting used to it still. Let's see if that does it. David loves that, by the way. He cursed me. I don't know if y'all believe in those. Maybe you don't. That's okay. I'm living proof that it happened. See, I'm blaming David instead of taking responsibility for myself for not putting the plate down. Okay? Yep. He just knew it was coming. He said, own it, own it, own it. You ate the Twinkies, own it. At 11 o'clock at night, right before you went to bed. My weakness is Oreos. That's what And I'm talking the originals. I don't want the double stuffed. I don't want the covered. I don't want the mint. I don't want the... No, I'm just talking about the original. They came out with the perfect recipe when they did it the first time. Leave it alone. Nabisco, leave it alone. Woo! This is moving. You hang on, people. You'll never look at an Oreo the same. 2 for $5. Oh. Ooh, the fat kid in me just got happy. I don't even know where I was. Hang on a second. Woo. I squirrel easy. I apologize. Start talking about food. See, that's what happened. These 34s are going to be 36s before long. Congratulations. But I still have my hair, Guido. Woo. Brian. I ain't scared. And you're owning it. And hey, honestly, you rock it, my friend. You really do. Woo, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I'm trying to preach. Shh. That's right. Lord have mercy. Come on now. But here's what happened. Here's the interesting thing that happened. Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and there behind him was a ram caught in the thicket by the horn. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for the burnt offering instead of his son. See, the ram wasn't the sacrifice. The ram was the miracle that was already waiting for him on the other side of his obedience. See, it wasn't about the sacrifice. It was about the miracle that was on the other side. See, because that ram was already out doing whatever it is that rams do, and I don't know, but they do things. They do ram stuff, okay? And so it was over grazing and eating and climbing mountain. I don't know what they do. But anyway, clashing with its friend. And all of a sudden, God moved its course. Come on. All right. You see what I'm telling you? God moved its course, and the ram all of a sudden knew instinctively that it needed to start to move this way. Now the miracle began to work its way up the other side of the mountain. While Abraham was being obedient and taking his son up the other side of the mountain. You see what I'm telling you? What he didn't know was that the miracle was coming up the other side. If he would just steady the course and stay in the obedience, the miracle was coming up the other side. Because God had already ordained it to happen that way. It wasn't chance, it was God. He did not get ahead of God. He was just obedient, my brother. And he didn't know that it was coming up the other side. I believe that the reason that he didn't even notice it or hear it in the thicket is because he could not get ahead of the miracle. Plus, he was clearly very focused on what he had to do. But God was providing the miracle on the other side. The problem that we run into, church, is that we haven't even started up the mountain yet. We haven't started up the mountain because we have fear. We haven't started up the mountain because we have lies. We haven't started up the mountain because we're too busy self-judging or self-determining of whether or not it's really God's voice that's telling us to go do the thing that we're supposed to do. We're not believing the things that we're being taught and the things that we're reading where it says that God is already in control, that God already has it ordained, that God already has it figured out, and all he's asking for is obedience. But we are at the bottom of the mountain when we're still marching around because we haven't convinced ourselves that we're worthy to go up the mountain to begin with. Oh, come on, somebody. The problem is that we've got all this baggage on our back of all of these lies. I'm not good enough. I'm not educated enough. I haven't done enough. I don't know enough of the Bible. I've sinned too much. I've went too deep. So all this baggage is weighing us down, and we can't even begin the march up the mountain. But can I tell somebody that I serve a God that's here to unpack your baggage, that's here to set you free, that's going to get you up on top of your mountain? Come on. Because I'm telling you that the miracle is on the other side already. Come on. Can you even imagine how overcome with relief Abraham must have felt when the angel grabbed his hand? His heart must have been leaping for joy. So much so that he didn't even notice the ram in the bush that the Lord had conveniently provided to be used in the place of Isaac. And it is at this point that he names the place the Lord will provide, or Jehovah Jireh, according to the Hebrew. I often wonder why Abraham did not see or hear the ram caught in the bush. It may have been because he was so intent on his task that he did not notice. Or it may, have been because God did not allow him to see the ram because his test was not complete. God may be not letting you to see the outcome of your situation because he's still letting you go through the test. But can I tell you that if you'll just study the course, I've said before that if you're here today and you're still battling things in your life, and so you feel like a hypocrite, let me tell you something. The church is full of supposed hypocrites. Yeah. Because as my sister back there said, if you're perfect, stay home. We have nothing to teach you if you've already got to the top. We have nothing we can teach you. So we're all working on something in our lives. So I hate that term of hypocrites in the church. You can be, if you're living your life one way and then you're standing in here and you're prejudging and predetermined and pointing your finger and all that kind of stuff. Sure, you can be, but I don't consider myself a hypocrite. I consider myself somebody that God is still working on, still sharpening, still knocking off the rough edges. I don't know how long some of you have been in. Some of you have just been into Christianity a lot less time than you were in the world. So it's going to take a little bit of time to reboot and reset and retransform things in your life. But don't give up. Don't give up. I mean, what's the point of doing that? Well, I can't get it right, preacher. I don't have this figured out, and I don't have that figured out, and I don't have this right, so I'm just going to go back to what I know. Well, how good was it working for you? Yeah. Huh? Come on. How good was it working for you? I don't know what your pit looked like, but mine was pretty ugly. It wasn't doing me any favors, that's for sure. There was constant turmoil in my life. Somebody knock on the door and I had to do the old blind check, click. Last thing I wanted to see was a Crown Victorian in my driveway. Some of you understand that. Nobody I knew drives a Crown Vic. Except. He wasn't coming over for tea. Huh? He was, well, you get it. But now there can be a knock on my door, bro, and I just go answer the door. Freedom. Chains are broken. Our lives are turned around. That's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about chains are broken. I'm no longer being held back by the life that I used to live. Now, I can tell you that if you are new in it and you made decisions back here, hey, there's consequences to your decision. Own it. You're going to deal with it. God will be with you. He'll comfort you. He was in the jails. You can read about it in the Bible. Okay? He'll never leave you or forsake you, but there's consequences, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But when you come out of that, and you start making new choices in your life, and you start heading in a new direction, then you don't have to worry about those things anymore, creeping up and coming in behind you anymore. We serve a God who says that once He puts it under the blood, oh, come on, somebody. Oh, that blood. Once He puts it under the blood, that's it. That's it. It's cast into the sea of forgetfulness. What we have to recognize is when it keeps being brought up is because there's a devil that goes around this world looking to kill, steal, and destroy, that has an ocean of reminders that keeps wanting to try to hinder you in your walk and your next step and the next place that God has intended for you. You can't do that because of this. You can't go here because of this. Don't pray for her because the healing won't take place. You'll look like a fool. And don't do this because of that. And don't go talk to that person because you don't know if that message really is from God. I mean, who are you anyway? Can I tell you that if you've got something good for somebody, just go tell them. Just go do it. If you've got something that is condemning and mean and hurtful, shut up. Because that ain't God, I'm telling you right now. It's just you getting in the way. I don't know if shut up and stupid are supposed to be said from the pulpit, but we covered them both, so. But I'm a neon sign kind of guy, okay? Sometimes God knows that. See, God knows how to deal with us individually. Don't get it twisted. He knows exactly. He knows who He can be gentle with, and He also knows who He needs to say, hey! You know? I'm a hey! That's right. He's a wham! You know, that's my wife. She'll tell you. I'm getting that look right now. That's why I don't look that way very often. I do, man. I need that. I need that direct direction in order for me to respond. I need it. And God knows that. Because I don't know how many times my wife and I have been in the middle of a conversation and something comes on TV and I'm... And then I hear, right? Right. You didn't hear a word I just said. Yes, I did. The last word was the. Or did you hear me? That was your last sentence. Your last sentence was, did you hear me? I don't mean to be that way. It's just how this thing works. So God knows that he has to get my attention. And so that's why even sometimes when I'm putting my messages together or whatever, I've got a whole different route that I think I need to go and a whole different plan that I think I need to go. And that whole time in my spirit I'm hearing, I didn't say any of that. I don't even want you to talk about that. And then I got to get that, hey! Yo, I'm in. Ram. Heard you. You know. Ram. So too with us saints, God desires to grow our faith and our obedience. Faith isn't enough. We have to have obedience. We have to also allow counsel. And not... Watch out now. Yeah, I know. Easy, got quiet. Easy, preacher. But we have to allow counsel, because that's why certain people are put over us to guide us. It's not about judgment, and it's not about all this other nonsense. We are in such an entitlement society that we feel like nobody's allowed to say nothing because we're too sensitive to take it. Yep. You know, if you don't believe it, just turn your TV on. The sensitivity is running wild. Okay? I'm not getting political. I'm just stating. So when the preacher comes at us, we instantly want to fight it. Instead of looking at it and going, okay, he's looking out for me. He's looking out for my better interest. Because that's what God's called him or her to do. So I need to take the advice and move in that direction, because that's why I sit under that ministry. And if what you're being told doesn't settle well with your soul, guess what? Not that I want anyone to leave. I love all you guys, but then you're sitting in the wrong place. But I promise you something. Truth, biblical truth, is being preached from this pulpit. I promise you that. Biblical truth. If it doesn't sit well, if it hurts, if it makes you squirm a little bit, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I heard a preacher used to say every time to people that would come into the church, you know, on the whim, you know, the good Christians, Christmas and Easter, you know, that's when they show up. Every time I come to this church, your message is always pointed right at me. And that preacher said, if you think that every time I'm preaching at you, it's probably because I am. It's God that's convicting. It's God that's stirring your soul. It's God that's redirecting and reforming and reshaping and knocking the edges off of you a little bit. Now, you can fight it all you want, and you can leave here today, and you can go right back to living your life exactly the way you were before you walked in the door. But then my point is why are you doing it then? Look, I'm looking to be molded. I'm looking to be changed. I'm looking to be redirected. I'm looking to be able to touch into people's lives and help change them and redirect them and show them what this God is all about. But not by judgment. I want to do it with love. And I want God to take care of the rest. I want this, as I've said before, to be a church that is a hospital for those that are hurting and not a courtroom. God's the judge. God's the judge. God's the one who will change the people as long as we stay preaching the truth. Then there is no no choice but to change. Change or leave. I'm not saying you either change or leave. I'm telling you that's what's going to happen to you. Is that you're either going to change. Come in. You're either going to change or you're going to leave. Huh? What'd you say? Oh, it's a good thing it's locked? Or we could hear something different. Oh, yeah. Or you could hear something totally different come from that back room. So too with, if I'd have just left it alone, sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. I just had to go there. Just own it. I did it. Yes, he will. He has. Well, so too with us in obedience. Like Abraham, he will provide all we need to accomplish that he has called us to do, according to his timing. That's the most difficult. We don't serve a God that works within our 24-hour schedule. He doesn't work in it. He doesn't have to. He isn't part of time. If he was part of time, then he couldn't be the God that he is. Okay? They say, how was he always? Because he's God. And I'm not going to try to explain that and get lost in this. You know, people want to get lost in all of these conversations to take you completely off point. Well, I'm not wasting time with all of that. Half of it I ain't smart enough to explain to you anyway. So I'll just divert you to Sister Stoops. I know she doesn't like to be pointed out, but she's a very smart woman. Very biblically minded. She's going to start a class one of these days. See how to learn from you? That's prophecy. If you are waiting on something from the Lord, be confident that God's ram is in the bush. And it will be on time. However, we must always be looking not only with our natural eyes, but more importantly with our spiritual eyes and our spiritual heart to see God's provisions. There's things all throughout the Word of God that if we would just humble ourselves and follow them, we would begin to see God move in our life like He's never moved before. You want to see God move in your finances? Then obey the tithe. Every time you talk about money, you could hear a penny drop because it just got deeper in somebody's pocket. If you want to hear from God, guess what? He wants to hear from you. And you can't just pray to Him when all hell's breaking loose in your life. He's not a genie in a bottle on a shelf that you get to go and rub every time you need something. It's a relationship with God. And then God will begin to move the things in your life that you need. You won't even have to ask. It will just begin to happen for you. Once you move into obedience. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. First. But we're too busy with self. And then we wonder where God is. Well, how's He supposed to move? He hasn't heard from you in 6 months. Hello. Huh? How's He supposed to provide? God moves with you, not for you. And if it seems to be taking longer than anticipated, then do not be discouraged. Know that God has a very good reason why. Perhaps like Abraham, there is something God is working to perfect in you. To get things out of your own way so that God can move in His plan for you. But a lot of times we got to get out of the way. We have got to stop telling God how it's going to go and start listening to God tell us how it needs to happen. We don't get to grab Him by the hand and say, okay, here's the next thing I need you to go ahead and work out for me. He's taking us by the hand and saying, come with me, and I'll show you the way. I will direct your path. I'll make sure that you get that either new job or that promotion that you've been looking for. She amen me. You didn't hear that, but she did. He'll provide. You won't even have to ask for it to happen. It will just happen because you're walking in obedience of God. He'll provide the car. He'll provide the finances. He'll provide the power bill that you don't know how you're going to pay. Come on, how many people have said, here it was, and I didn't know how I was even going to do it, and all of a sudden this came in, or that happened, or whatever. God is the provider. God is the healer. God is the one who will take care of your marriage for you. God's the one who will take care of your health situation. God's the one who will loose the things that have bound you. God will take care of those. He's asking for you to just steady the course and start up the mountain. Because your miracle is coming up the other side. I'm done.